Okay. We're streaming and you may begin whenever you're ready, Michael.
Great. Thank you, Sean. Welcome to tonight's January 21st, 2025 full design review board meeting. I'm going to call us to order. We have a quorum of 5 right now of 9 members. I will update that as if some other people will join because we are expecting a few more members. But we do have a quorum, so we wanted to get started on time. I do not have any opening remarks. Do I hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved by Mike B.
There's a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right, second by Samantha. All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, motion passes 5-0. Do we have any meeting minutes to approve, staff?
Yes, we have November 18th, December 3rd, December 10th, December 17th, January 7th, and January 14th.
A lot of them. All right, so do I hear a motion to approve November 18th, December 12th, December 10th, December 17th, January 7th, and January 14th meeting minutes?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Emily and then seconded by
I'll
Mike
second
B.
them.
All
There you
right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any against? All right, motion passes 5-0 again. All right, now I'm looking for any general member comments that do not pertain to any applications tonight. Please raise your hand virtually or into the computer screen. I have my camera off tonight because my audio for some reason is acting up. So, anybody have anything to say? All right, cool. We will move into the first agenda item, which is an appeal for Purple Sage Cluster. And is the appellant here, Jim and Bob, Jim Moran, Bob Sledzaus?
Yes, the appellant is here. I have sent them a prompt to unmute.
So for an appeal, just as a reminder to everybody, you need to prove new information is now available to us that we did not have at the time of the decision, or that we misapplied a guideline in the decision that you are appealing. So we will not hear from the applicant unless the appeal is granted. We'll strictly hear from the appellant. And if we grant the appeal, then we will hear the case de novo, which basically means we'll hear it all over again from the beginning. So feel free to take it away, Bob or Jim.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks, Michael, and thanks to the DRB board. Rather than not going to go over what had already sent in the appeal, because I'm sure you guys have already read it. So basically, it comes down to, since no planting can be done at this time anyway, things are a tad frozen. We're respectfully requesting that the DRB consider postponing a final decision on this appeal until a walkthrough can occur at a future date when proper plantings can be discussed at a more amenable time weather-wise. We have reached out to the RA Board of Directors and its DRB liaisons regarding this cluster-wide tree removal replacement project. Director Perry has graciously offered to do a walkthrough along with the DRB and the appellants once the weather clears up, if the DRB is willing to do so. Decisions regarding the replenishment of and additions to the overall canopy on Purple Sage Common area, as well as the proper placement of any trees, are decisions that really affect our cluster for decades to come. That being said, we and our neighbors would really appreciate the DRB coming on site to share its landscape design and architectural expertise. Short and sweet, that's all I got, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So let me go around the room, see if anyone has any questions for you, okay? And then we'll get back. So just a reminder to everybody, there was a decision. I don't know if staff, you could just pull up the decision. There was 7 trees approved to be removed and replaced, in a few in spring of 2025 they committed to, and then two more were committed to be in 2026. So just to kind of preface kind of what's going on. So let me go around, and I think Brian Cutler joined us, so we have one more member, so we are up to 6 now. Not sure if anyone else joined staff, let me know, but I did see Brian joined. So Emily, let me start with you because you are our landscape architect.
Yeah.
Do you have questions for the appellant?
So I'm not, since our approval letter already stipulates that the installation can be done in spring of 2025 and 2026, I'm not sure I quite understand what the appellant is asking for other than a site visit from us as the DRB, which I feel wouldn't be contingent to the approval. So that's kind of that. Is that my understanding? Is that correct? Do we still have the appellant here?
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah,
Ned.
I just unmuted myself. Hi, Emily. Thanks, and thank you for the question. It is not really contingent upon the approval, particularly because we're talking about the time of the plantings. As we wrote in our appeal, on many of the trees that were that were removed and are scheduled to be replaced were on Purple Sage's original plat. Almost all of them were 40 to 45-year-old, 50 to 60-foot tall, either maple, oaks, or in some cases pine trees. What they have been unfortunately replaced with, and where they've been replaced, have been extremely small trees that I would even classify not so much as a tree, but more like very small bushes, and also planted in places where no one would see them anyway, which doesn't really add much to the overall aesthetic appeal, of the neighborhood. So I think primarily the request for the walkthrough is kind of a let's put it this way. I remember years ago when a tree, that used to be that when the DRB guidelines for when a tree was to be removed and replaced, there was a stipulation that it needed to be at least a 3.5-inch caliper. That requirement has gone away from the DRB applications, and it seems that some of the trees that were replaced are extremely small. Sweet bay magnolias, literally some like 3.5 feet tall. Particularly in one area near the south entrance, one of the main places where you would notice them, there were 2 large Virginia pines removed. An original hawthorn tree was also removed, and its replacement is this little teeny tiny, I mean, literally, it's a bush. It's a sweet bay magnolia bush, and just to get a feel from or some recommendations from a landscape designer from an architectural perspective, just to perhaps make some recommendations on what the placement of these replacement trees and the size and the species. We're okay with the species because all they've been replaced with have been natives, and we're grateful for that, with the exception of 2 Norway spruces. But just to have the eyes of a landscape designer come out and say, glad you're replacing the trees, consider, something perhaps a bit larger. I guess that's all that we're asking for, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you very much. Staff, do we have I note in our guidelines, and I have it up for the single family detached, but for our guidelines, what I'm reading is that the DRB encourages and may require an appropriate replacement tree or trees and or other vegetation to be installed and maintained as stipulation for approval. Am I reading the most recent that we have?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay. I guess, so to the appellant's argument, there aren't really any standards or guidelines for removal or replacement in kind, but it is more up to the panel that submitted or that reviewed the application in order to determine what they feel is appropriate for removal and replacement. Am I missing anything, Michael or staff, or anybody else? I'm just trying to make sure that we have all the information at hand.
No, I think you have a good grasp on it.
Okay. With
Yeah,
that said, I have no, I think that answers any questions that I might have. I have thoughts and feelings about it, but I don't know if we're ready for that portion of tonight's meeting.
let me go around and see if anyone has any questions, and then we'll come back and we'll do some comments to just figure out with the appeal whether we'll accept the appeal or not. So, Samantha, do you have any questions for the appellant?
No questions, thank you.
Camelia, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mike B,
Negative. Thank you, sir.
Brian,
No questions.
and Steph. I don't think anyone else has joined. All right, my only question is one thing I'm trying to figure out. The way I remember this application is that the trees, and the appellant may or may not know this, but are the trees that are going back, the 5 that they are replanting, are they going back in the exact locations that the original trees being removed are? Or, because that was my understanding, but it seems like on your appeal, you were saying they were going somewhere different. And Bob or Jim is happy to answer as well. I see his hand raised as well.
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It's really if someone will anybody, how many people are on the design and review board at this point in time total?
We have 9 members.
And may I plead that one of the 9 members, would you please come out, give us an hour and come out and look at Purple Sage. We've been here for 40 years. This is 40 years worth of trees either dying, trees being removed. We have trees, say, in the south entrance. There 2 trees have been removed out of 3. The other one's in a hideous decline. They all should have been removed at one time and replaced with an appropriate tree. The lady who lives the first house there in the rear entrance, her siding has been ripped off by the wind. When those trees were removed, she has no shade, she has no privacy, she has no sound help from the we would have had, the parkway came through. We used to have a Stewart Road was a 2-lane divided highway, and it was replaced by the Reston Parkway. And the guidelines
Fairfax County Parkway.
I'm sorry, that parkway, the sound walls to reduce light and sound, that was not able to be put in because the measurement from the last corner of the last house to the parkway was 10 inches short of us getting a Jersey wall. That said, because we don't have any trees left, sizable trees, we get the light, the wind, the noise, no shade. Our electric bills going up because we had 50, 60-foot trees that provided shade from the sun, and also protected our homes from the siding being ripped off from the wind. They planted twigs. The 2 of the, and they planted them in the back of the homes, not in the places where the 50-foot trees were taken down. All the trees are being pulled down and replaced by if you came out and saw this little tree.
Well, sorry, Jim, 1 second. Michael, to go back and answer your question, as close as possible, but in some cases, they're not going back in the exact same location as where trees were removed.
Yeah, That my understanding was that they were going back where, where they were being, that's why we were having the stumps grind all the way, so then you
right.
could plant a new tree in
Mm.
that exact same location. So
Yeah.
maybe I just wanted to clarify that. So it sounds like and I don't know if Aaron's here, and I know he's the applicant. I don't know, but that was more of one of my questions. So let me go around and see if there's any other questions, and then we'll.
Aaron is here. The president of the cluster is here.
Am I allowed to ask him a question, even if he technically is not the appellant?
It's at the pleasure of the DRB.
Yeah, if Aaron's here, if I could ask him the same question.
Aaron, you're unmuted.
Yes, hi, good evening.
Hey, Aaron. So my question was the trees that were being replanted. I guess two questions since I have you here. The ones that have been planted, it sounds like the caliper of them seems smaller. Once again, I have not seen them, so I do not know. Our decision letter had 2 inches minimum. Do you know, did the landscape company meet that requirement when they planted the replant of the trees?
So for the previous application,
Correct. I guess this has been this is a 3-phased landscape plan. The appeal is just for phase 2 and 3, but
Right.
I'm asking for the trees that were replanted in phase 1. Did they follow the kind of 2-inch caliper?
for phase 1, yes, I believe it was 2-inch caliper.
Okay. And generally speaking, for phase 2 and 3, the replacement trees are going in the same area, or that the trees were being removed, or it's not?
General, yes, as I explained during the original meeting, there's one tree that our arborist said that they would not be able to plant in the same spot due to the proximity of utilities, but it will be planted as close as possible to the original location.
Okay. All right. And that was my understanding. So that's what I was trying to kind of clarify. Okay. So let me go around the room, see if we have any comments. Thank you, Aaron, for answering those. So really the appellants want anybody who's willing to go out there and take a look and just give kind of some recommendations for, trees are not my specialty. I'm an architect. I don't know fully always what is the right tree. But I'd be willing to give it a shot. But if there's someone a little bit more competent, one of our landscape members maybe, or somebody who's a little bit more interested in that would be interested. I really think that's what Jim and Bob are kind of looking for. Do any of the board members kind of, from the appeal standpoint, if we stay on that side, to me, there's no new information. Kind of, to me, it has been confirmed that the decision we had is what is kind of going to go forward. And it still hasn't been, they can't plant them yet because the ground is frozen right now and they're not going to plant them until spring. But Emily or anyone else with the landscape interest, would you guys be willing to go out there just for, help give us a little bit of guidance?
I would be willing to do a go-see that's kind of not part of this appeal, just as a, volunteer from the DRB, because I do agree that while I don't necessarily agree with, what was approved, it is what, I don't think that there's any new information on that. So I'd be delighted to go out. But as just an aside, Fairfax County, it does have in their Municode, their tree protection. It's basically calculations for arborists of their different size trees, the different calipers, and the different future canopy coverages. I'd be more than willing. I'll give that to staff and share that as well. Just because that is something that we often use to say, this is the type of tree that was taken out. Here are a list of species that would be appropriate replacements to actually be a replacement, not saying this was, a 40-foot poplar and now we're going to put in a shrub of that nature. But yes, I'd be more than happy to come out and take a look and meet with whoever from the community would like to discuss the options, but I don't see any misapplied guidelines or new information.
Yeah. And what's tough is with there's 100 and, correct me if I'm wrong, Cam, but I think there's like 130 clusters, 100 and something. So there's a lot. So, they all have been here ranging in years, but a lot of them do have, trees are always technically dying, right? They're always getting older. That's, the nature of a living thing. And so it's very tough for us to be able to visit, every single cluster. So that is a challenge. I do know we have staff who are able to do that when requested. So I don't know if that would be a resource staff. I know we have, don't we have an arborist as well?
Reston Association does not consult on cluster-owned property, so that is not available from Reston Association.
Okay.
But we do have some tree guy. We do have resources. We're just not, the arborist is not able to.
Right. We I know we now have lately our trusted vendor, not trusted vendor, but vendors that are available that work in the area and that have done projects who would be, to get a second opinion or a third opinion, et cetera. People would be willing to come out there. But I think Emily sounds like she's willing to do it. I think unless someone has anything else on the appeal, I am open to hearing a motion.
Michael, I'm just Michael. Part to the motion, we will say there is no new information on the appeal, and so that is a given. Extremely grateful for Emily's willingness to come up to take a look see. An extra set of expert eyes is very much appreciated, and I would just also bring up the question, taking a look at a couple. There are several trees that were phenomenal. Some willow oaks that were put in, absolutely right location, right species, perfect size trees, but several of them, particularly these sweet bays, which I've planted some myself in different lives, certainly were not 2-inch caliber by any ruler that I've ever seen in my life, but just appreciate Emily's willingness and your guys' willingness to listen to this. It really is very much appreciated.
And that's one thing, Bob, but when they go and plant trees in the spring, once they're in the ground and let's say they get in the ground and you feel like they're too small, that's where I believe and Cam, correct me if I'm wrong, you can contact Reston Association and say they did not meet the intent of the decision. If it's a inch caliper or whatever it be, then they could send staff out to come out and take a look at it to make sure that it is in fact a 2-inch caliper tree. So because our decision letter is pretty clear that the replacements are a 2-inch caliper minimum. So that would be something that you could verify very easily. So that would be kind of an option.
Mr. Wood, this is Jim Moran. May I have one more minute? I believe Miss Inglis's coming out will help identify the problems and help us convey to you what make our complaint clearer. We were out meeting. We were out walking actually with a property manager at one point, and that was another walkthrough scheduled with Bob and myself. We were walking with a prior property manager about a year and a half ago when we happened upon Premier, who were in planting the new trees, and we along with the property manager, we just happened. The guy said, "Hey, I'm not so sure where we're supposed to be putting these trees." And the property manager was brand new. It was her third day. And she says, "Well, I'm the property manager, but I have no idea where they're supposed to be planted either." And they planted them wherever they wanted to willy-nilly plant them with no guidance from the management company, and no guidance from the board. Nobody from the board comes on site. Those 2 or 4 of the trees were planted behind our president's house in the backside when they were supposed to be replacing 2 of the trees at the south entrance. If you come and look at our south entrance, the trees are gone. We have nothing to show. You come and look at our back entrance, all you see is bare, because those trees were planted incorrectly they also, they're dying because they're planting them too low. The root balls are too low. And when you plant them too low, they tend to die. Because
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, and I think once again, that's where if you feel like the letter of our approval is not being, executed to what our guy, what our letter of approval is saying, that's where the only thing we can do is contact staff to be able to come out and verify that they are meeting the intent. We have our post completion inspector who does, has to inspect all the properties that are completed. So that is always an option. Is there anyone willing to make a motion on the appeal? I'll make a motion that we deny the appeal, that there's no new information or a misapplied guideline.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? Mike B, I didn't.
Mike B abstains.
Abstains. Okay, I didn't think I heard you. All right.
Yeah, I
five,
was on the panel, Michael, so
Oh,
I
okay.
abstain.
All right, 501. All right, motion passes. Staff, was this from a panel though? I thought this was full board.
No, this was from a panel, December
Oh.
17th panel.
What panel members couldn't? Are the other ones not here?
They're not here. It was Sarah and Elena.
Okay, perfect. All right, then we're good. I was worried that
I got you, buddy. No worries.
yeah, okay. You're paying attention. I'm not. All right, so moving on to application G. Let me find my agenda. We have 11576 Greenwich Point Road, and this is also an appeal.
That is
And I
correct.
believe- Who will be speaking on the appellant's behalf?
Cam on behalf of Reston Association.
All right, Cam, you know the drill. Take it away whenever you're ready.
Awesome. I'm pretty much going to stick to the script here, so I'll just read what we have here and expand on some of the things, and happy to answer any questions. I'm Cam Adams, the Director of Covenants Administration here at Reston Association, and have filed an appeal on behalf of the Reston Association Board of Directors for this application decision. Some background information was included in the appeal, so feel free to peruse that as I go through this. The basis of the appeal is misapplied guideline and new information. I'm just going to read kind of what is on here, make it quick for you all. Reston Association encourages owners to make exterior modifications to enhance the appearance of their homes and relies on the DRB to interpret and render decisions on applications before them. The DRB uses the established design guidelines to render decisions, and often, in the absence of clear and explicit design guidelines, RA understands the DRB must make reasonable decisions. Based on the existing design guideline, for single-family detached lights decorative, owners of detached single-family homes are not required to submit an application if they are installing low-voltage landscape lights, either shielded or directable type, that are focused towards the house, or mushroom type, maximum 8 per property. The example that was in the application appeal hopefully will be put back on the screen. We'll show you exactly what those examples look like. Anything beyond those details would require either an application reviewed by staff in consultation with the DRB or by a panel of the DRB. Other considerations within the design guideline include glare. Its design, wattage, and type of light minimizes objectionable glare onto neighboring properties or streets, and landscape lights. The design, wattage, lamp source, and number of fixtures must not result in glare or excessive light levels when viewed from the streets and neighboring properties. Unfortunately, the DRB reviewed this application as an after-the-fact request, which means the owner initially violated RA requirements to seek approval prior to commencement of any exterior changes. Per the application, the owner installed the following without approval: uplights, 44 light fixtures on the rear and side, mini floodlights, the number was 6, the path lights number was 18, downlights, the number was 8. The approval received was for a total of 76 additional light fixtures on the property, not to include any existing decorative light fixtures attached to the home. As you can see from the image below, which is on the screen currently, the number of fixtures and lighting on the property is substantial. Each red dot reflects a light fixture, with 44 of them representing up lighting. Returning to the other considerations in the applicable design guidelines, it is clear there is excessive light levels when viewing from the street and neighboring properties. The DRB can see on the below images A, B, and C, the lighting on the main tree in the front yard, as well as the images provided by the applicant, where there are 7 uplights on the walls of the home in addition to the 1 decorative light fixtures by the front door, 2 the typical mushroom style landscape light fixtures, which the design guidelines generally support, and 3 existing under cap light fixtures in the front courtyard area, which we are citing as new information that was not available to the DRB on the original reviews or previous reviews of the application. The number of the light fixtures seems overwhelmingly unnecessary and do contribute to being excessive in appearance. So as you can see from the pictures below, if we could scroll back up to page 5, I'm sorry. You can see how substantial and stark the light fixtures are on the property from the front. There's also a video linked to the Dropbox from that view as well. And then you can see the image D reflects the rear portions of the property. If you could go to the next page, the homeowner provided these pictures in a previous iteration of their application. You can see in these images to the top left, there are uplights directly on the house, as well as towards the left, there are pillars that have a stone facade that actually have existing light fixtures in them. So if you go to the next page on, at the top, the owner submitted an application reviewed by the DRB on June 8th, 2021, redoing the front courtyard area, and successfully received the approval below, which noted the lights that are under the caps. There are actually 8 of them. And as a condition of the approval for that application, the condition stated under cap lighting must be directed downward. Lighting must not be installed in fountain spigots or spouts. This approval, including the lighting being installed underneath the capstone of each pillar within the courtyard on both sides, it appears, for a total of 8 LED cap lights, which would be indicated on the image on the next page that is green. All those green areas are existing cap underlighting that has been installed. As you can see from the image, some of them are relatively close to existing approved lighting fixtures that are being appealed this evening. Part of the decision explicitly required the applicant to point out the lighting downward and not permitting lighting around the fountain spigots. It would appear that there was intention in 2021 regarding limiting the amount of light cast in the front yard. RA does not believe the DRB was aware of this prior approval and that this information should have been considered when reviewing the application. In addition, some of the renderings that you can see on page 76 and 86 of the application reflected that the lights that are on the home, so SL001, they're actually going to be, maybe it's page 86, I'm sorry, staff. Or actually 55. Maybe I have my pages messed up. Thanks, Julie. So if you look at this image versus the image that was provided in the appeal.
It's not what just happened. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. The DRB can look at it separately, but on page 55, there's a rendering that reflects kind of what should be the installed lighting versus on page, I believe it's page 8 of the appeal. It's inconsistent with what you see that was actually installed. There's actually 4 light fixtures on the right side of the front door that are focused on the home. And then there's 3 fixtures that are adjacent to the garage wall that's leading up to the front door. So in conclusion, the DRB must consider this approval will be referenced for every single property, whether on the lake or not, and could be the basis of an appeal or potentially citing inconsistent application or arbitrary of the design guidelines if other like projects receive unfavorable decisions. Resident Association supports owners wishing to improve and enhance the exterior of their properties and most certainly understands how safety and security must be a priority. However, the DRB must consider the impact this application and decision will have on not only Reston Association, but also the Reston community, especially if there were alternative methods or ways to address the owner's intent without creating a precedent for others to potentially follow.
Great, thank you, Cam. Let me go around and see if there's any questions, and then we'll go from there. Emily, do you have any questions for Cam?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Samantha, do you have any questions for Cam?
No, I do not. Thank you, Ken, for putting together a package like this. Very informational.
Camelia, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Mike B?
No questions, my man. Thank you.
Brian?
I apologize if this is a dumb question, Cam, but is the nature of your appeal just the lights in the, like, I guess the front courtyard, or all like or around the entire home?
The information provided was specifically regarding the front, but the totality of the project is a concern.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think I don't have a question. I think the undercap lights, were not part of any documentation that was put together for the lighting photometric that was shown for these new lights. So to me, it's new information that there are additional lights in the front yard beyond what was in the approval, which, he's marked here with these green marks from a previous approval from 2021. To me, that is new information that we did not have previously.
Michael, can I ask, excuse me, there on this plan, neither are shown existing carriage lights from the windows and doors of the house. So if the undercap lights were already approved, why would they have to be shown on this application? If that was not something that they were applying for? Or would you say that every light, that in order to have this put in, that we would require a re-examination of every exterior light that they have? Just playing devil's advocate, because that's kind of the line of thinking that we're going down with.
To me, it's all low voltage lighting. So to me, we would need to review that. It'd be like reviewing a landscaping plan of 3 new plants without knowing, well, what else is out there. Like, it would just be on a desert landscape, right? And then all of a sudden we realize, oh wait, they have 27 different other trees and plants. It'd be like you drawing a landscape plan without showing any of the existing conditions. That's my opinion. And I think these lights were, they're not shown on a photometric what we asked from the applicant. I do think, I would agree with for building mounted lights. I think we should have requested the building mounted lights to be included part of the photometric study. We didn't, but I do think it was impactful on this. But I don't think, ultimately, to me, this is one new piece of information that meets the appeal guidelines. Because to me, it's photometric light, or it's low voltage lighting. It should all be tied to the same kind of parameters. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on that?
I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts, but just because the light fixtures themselves weren't shown on the plan doesn't mean the photometric data isn't there. Because if you look at page 50 of 94, you can actually see, I believe, where there's light increases from their photometric data, where those cap lights actually are. You can see little hot spots on the actual data points from there. Just again, pointing out that even though the fixtures aren't labeled, the light data is, unless, of course, I can't say, I don't know if those were on during when the photometric study was taken.
Yeah, it's tricky to say, because if you zoom in on that staff, right where the cap lights are that we're talking about on the front kind of walkway to the front door, There's a 6.9 right in the middle of the front walkway coming in where there's some lights. There to the left of the SL07, there's a 6.9 reading right at the front sidewalk where the fieldstone walkway ends into the patio there, or kind of patio front step walkway. No staff plan go up. It's 6.9. It's right there in the middle of the page. Basically, go up just a little bit where your cursor was. Go over to the right. No.
To the right.
To the right.
Yep.
Right
going.
there. Right
There
there.
it is.
So, but then if you look up to the other entrance where there apparently is also under cap post lightings, it says 0.81. So to me, they either, like you said, they weren't on, or some of them were on, or I frankly don't think they were considered as part of the photometric when we were reviewing this. And then in the totality of the lighting concern, I am also concerned that the overall, precedent that this sets for other people, because the biggest thing that I was saying during this review was, if every single person did this around the lake, is it appropriate? And that's where I kept, to me, that's where a guideline was misapplied, because to me, not everybody could do this around the lake. And I think the appellant is correct in pointing out that it was an existing install that we were having to, review, which always makes our decisions a little bit more biased. If someone was to come to us with a new application and requesting this ahead of time, before, I think we would see the totality of 76 lights and be taken back. So that's, to me, there's new information. Does anyone else want to say anything?
I would make a motion to accept the appeal, Michael.
All right, we have a motion by Mike B. Do I hear a second?
I will second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, so all those in favor of the appeal, I'm going to take a roll call just to keep it easy, and we'll go from there. So if you vote, I'll ask if you vote yay or nay in the appeal. So Mike B, do you vote yay or nay?
Yay.
Samantha?
Yay.
Emily?
Nay.
Camelia?
Nay.
Brian?
Yay.
And I'll also vote yay. So motion to accept the appeal is granted 4-2 to 0. Sorry, I was struggling through that. So we will hear the case de novo. Is the applicant here tonight?
Yes,
Believe
the
it's right
applicant
in
is
his hand.
here, and I have sent Colin a prompt to unmute.
So I've had my hand up and I didn't get to say anything before the vote, so I'm disappointed.
Unfortunately, we don't allow the applicant. You cannot speak before
Well,
the appeal.
Okay, so I have a request. I didn't receive this application until Friday, this past Friday. I see that it was dated December the 3rd, but I never received it until Friday. I wrote back immediately and asked to speak with the person that had sent it to understand the protocol. Unfortunately, she was out of the office. I was in the hospital all weekend with my 85-year-old mother who had to rush to the hospital for a brain tumor. And yesterday was a holiday. I did write and asked for a call, and I finally got a call today. And I'm going to ask, because I haven't had time to review this, I do think that I should have an opportunity to say why I don't think there's any new information here. I think I should have the opportunity to speak. And if it can't be tonight, then I just ask to continue it till the next meeting or whenever. I definitely want to employ some resources here to understand to better understand, which I was trying to get when I got the appeal on Friday. But if you'd like to listen to it now, whatever. I'm very disappointed that I didn't get to speak and that I got it so late, and that frankly, I'm really surprised that, well, I'll just stop there.
So yeah, with our appeal process, the applicant, unfortunately, unless you're the appellant, which you were not, you would not get to speak regardless of when you were notified about it. We definitely can defer, because basically now the application will be heard de novo, which means we're going to start all over again. We definitely can defer the application to allow you more time to get resources. I am open to that, because I do, since you don't have, I know you had you have obviously the lighting designers and the people who would you maybe want to come to have at the meeting. So I completely understand your request in that standpoint. But from a procedure standpoint, during an appeal, that's how our process works. Because we have to see if there is, reason for appeal, which in this instance, the board voted that there was.
Well, I have to, Michael, I'm going to disagree with you. There is no new information here. It's clear to me that the author, which is Cam, has an opinion, a personal opinion, and it comes throughout this application or throughout this appeal, and I can reference 2 places on page 4, and that front courtyard was approved 2.5 years ago, and every single person on that board was requested, and to my knowledge, including yourself, Michael, visited the property prior to the vote during the last meeting. So it's not new information. The courtyard was approved in 2022. It was inspected, and I have a personal letter from the inspector that I can share on my screen right now to say that it was approved in its entirety. So it's not new information. You visited the property. You said so last meeting, and so did everybody else on the board. So there's nothing new here. We've debated this. We've had subject matter experts in. We've met 4 different times on it, in a smaller group and with the larger board, and I want to appeal the appeal. I mean, it's just that simple. I'm shocked at the way this has been conducted. So I want to revote, please.
Since an appeal has been granted, there is now it is a revote, because we're going to hear the application is new. LaShonda, you have something?
I have nothing. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just saw your hand raised. Is Tony, our counsel's on. I'm sure he can weigh in on, kind of, I don't believe you can appeal the appeal. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong.
You can't appeal an appeal.
So we can board members, I'm welcome to hear it tonight, or we can allow the applicant more time to bring his experts back.
Michael, the DRB liaison, the board liaison, has their hand up.
Oh. Hey, Margaret.
Hi, Michael. I just want to make sure that it's clear to the applicant that this appeal is from the RA Board of Directors, and that attacking staff, specifically Cam, is not only incorrect, it is inappropriate. This is an appeal that was brought forth by the RA Board of Directors because this lighting we felt was a misuse of RA guidelines. Thank you.
So I'm going to make a motion to defer the application to the next full board meeting to allow the applicant to prepare their experts and extra materials, hopefully citing the new information that we deemed was relevant tonight with the additional undercap lighting to be included in the photometric study. So there's a motion.
Michael, I'm curious, in your motion, are you deferring it to the next month's meeting, or is that
next full board? Or yes. So
okay.
Staff, when would you guys need stuff by? If we were, I can't require new information, or I can't require new studies, but If you guys were able to put in new information, when would you need it by for the next full board?
We would need it by February the 7th. We can work with the applicant to get them scheduled whenever the information is available.
Okay, thank you. So that's my motion, Brian.
Got it. Thank you.
So is there a second or?
I'll second it, Michael.
All right, there's a motion and second. Is there any further questions or discussion? All right, we'll once again do a roll call. Emily, yay or nay?
Yay.
Samantha,
Yay.
Amelia,
Yay.
Mike B,
Yay.
Brian,
Yay.
and I also vote yes. So motion passes to defer the application to give the applicant more time. Thank you. Moving on to application H. 11449 Waterview Cluster. This is also an appeal, I believe. Yes. And I see a familiar face. I believe Neil is on for Waterview Cluster.
I am.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I have to admit, I'm a little happy that last one got deferred.
So walk us through your appeal. You're appealing a rear patio, I believe, on a decision that we had at was it at a panel staff?
Yes, correct. That was at a panel at the December 10th panel where Emily and Camelia were on the panel.
All right, so we still have 4 of us. Okay, we're good to go. Oh,
Sorry, I also on that panel as well.
oh, Samantha was on there too.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, we have 3 of our 6 here tonight who are not on this panel. Are we still good to roll?
3 of 6 were on the panel, and LaShonda, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have to leave the meeting, they just must abstain from the vote.
They just need to abstain from the appeal vote, yes.
There's no way this appeal could be granted tonight.
Because we only have 3, it wouldn't be
Right.
it wouldn't be a majority.
Correct.
Who are we missing right now? Were all the other people not coming tonight? Was that accurate?
Correct. I didn't hear from Elena. Sarah wasn't able to make it, and John.
Okay, but no, we didn't hear from Elena.
No.
I was just
So
thinking.
I know the applicant is very upset if this isn't going to be heard tonight. I'll say that for him because we didn't even want to appeal it because he's already waited like 3 months to do this. And it's not in some ways very complicated, but if you can't hear the appeal, you can't hear the appeal. But it's really a shame.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's obviously, I mean, you know the protocol, unfortunately. That's why I was saying if we could try, what I can do is staff can try to get a hold of Elena, who's a board member who's not here right now, who didn't respond either way, and we could maybe defer to the end of the agenda and hope she can join. So then we
That's
could
past my bedtime.
So I do hate to do it, but from a standpoint, we cannot make a judgment on it. So we will have to defer. I'll make a motion to defer the application item to next full board.
Unbelievable.
And then you get to come and attend.
I'll second. Yeah.
All
I'll
right,
second,
so
Michael.
there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye, which I think only, I guess technically the other people can vote, but all in favor, say aye, aye.
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 So just as a point of order, this could have been realized a long time ago, like 2 hours ago. Just to say, It's a shame we sat here, the applicant and me, for the last, anyway.
Well, we most certainly apologize. That panel that we were discussing, there was a substitute, and so it wasn't it wasn't our normal setup. So most certainly apologize to the homeowner and the appellant for that error.
Hey, staff, it's Camelia. Is there any way that we could just put this application at the top of the next FDRB agenda? So the applicant doesn't have to wait until, later on.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
We most certainly will do that.
Thank you.
Hopefully everyone who's able to vote on the application attends the meeting.
I agree. Agreed. So we'll make
So
sure
we'll
we
make
get-
every effort to make that happen.
Yeah, normally we have much more participation. I don't know if it's the new year cold. This is a very low attendance meeting for us. Thank you, Neil. Much apologies. All right.
And Michael, if I could just have a second, I see the homeowner is on the call as well as the homeowner's attorney. This is going to be deferred to the February DRB meeting, so staff will reach out to you tomorrow if you have specific questions on process, but just wanted to make sure that you were aware you are free to leave for the rest of the evening, and we'll pick this matter back up in February.
All right. So moving on to application I, which is 1800 Bowman Town. Is the applicant here?
Yes, the applicant is here and unmuted.
Yes, I'm here. Jeffrey Rohr with Quantum Real Estate Management, representing the Bowman Court address.
Great. Could you walk us through kind of what you're, I think it looks like you're proposing some landscaping work
Yeah, landscaping work and some lighting. Which would you like to start with? Doesn't
whichever order you want to start. It's up to you.
I'll start with the lighting because that one I think probably is a little bit quicker. We were cited because there is a light which is not the original property lighting. I'm trying to find out what page am I on. Page 14, I think it is, LaShonda.
Okay.
The other, you're on the landscaping, I think.
Okay.
There was a light replaced 2 years ago near our basketball court, and it was not the same style of lighting. Yeah, that one right there to the right of the pictures. And that one and these on the left-hand side of the square, there used to be a light at that location in the parking lot. We were having trouble finding lighting to match the original lighting, but we did find, our electrician searched and was able to find lighting that matched the same style that is there. The only difference being that the new installations would be LED lighting. The proposal is to replace that one that is not the correct light and install the one that was never replaced for whatever reason. And as lights were to go out, we would replace the individual lights in sequence and not all at one time to be more cost effective for the property.
So how many? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 lights, you said? Is that accurate? No, 11. It's the yellow that we're counting.
Correct. The yellow dots are the ones that are there currently.
Okay.
And then on the next page, the 2 red dots are where we would be replacing. Well, I should say the top red dot, that one would be replaced. That was the light that is installed incorrect. That's the incorrect light style. And the dot in the center of the picture, the red dot, there is no light there. There used to be one there, and it needs to be reinstalled. Our proposal right now is to replace the one and install the one at the two red dots. And as the yellow lights were to stop working, we would be replacing them at that time.
Okay.
And
You know what the height of your proposed pole is?
I do not know the exact height.
Were you planning on keeping the existing height though, or?
Yeah. We want to keep the existing height that is currently there.
Gotcha. Okay.
The only real difference is these lights are going to be LED. They're going to be the same style box light that is currently there. Page number, LaShonda, I'm trying to find it.
Page 50.
Yeah, those lights right there. The ones that we currently have are regular lighting, and we're going to be replacing them as they go out with these LED lightings.
Okay. And you mentioned as they go out, I saw in your application, you requested kind of sort of a phasing.
Correct. Yeah, phasing it in because the expense is like $27,000, I believe, to do all of them at one time. And we want to make sure we have available cash for any other repairs, as well as the next project that we're going to discuss with the landscaping.
So what are you thinking from a timeline? Is it strictly a 1-for-1 situation, or is it a 2-year thing? Is it how long are you?
It would be a 1-for-1. I mean, I would assume that the lights would, within 2 years, we should be going through all of them. We just had to replace a bulb in one, or excuse me, about 4 lights we just replaced lights in. I don't know what their life expectancy is on those bulbs.
Okay.
I mean, we can put a timeline on it of 2 years. I mean, that would be sufficient, I believe, and we could phase them in every couple months.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be. Sometimes the new lighting, even if it has a 3000 color temperature, it all of a sudden is, it starts looking a little hodgepodge. From
right.
That would be a
right. Understood.
Option. Okay, so those are the lights. So you want us, he submit 2 application staff, or is one big application, right? So I guess we'll go around, see if anyone has any questions on the lights, and then we'll jump to the landscaping. We won't have any discussion yet. I'll just see if anyone has any questions while everything's up. Emily, do you have any questions?
No, my question was the height, and so that's just that you already asked it. Thanks.
It sounds like it's just matching existing.
Yeah.
Samantha, did you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Camelia?
No questions here. Thank you.
Mike B?
Negative. Thank you.
And I do know Brian had to drop, so we are back to 5 members, just as an FYI for record. Okay, so I don't have any follow-up questions, so we'll leave that for the end, or not for the end, but for when we make the motion. So, Jeffrey, you want to go on to the landscaping that you guys are proposing?
Yeah, the landscaping, there are several areas of erosion on the property, as well as missing trees that were removed prior to 2019, as far as I know. I've only been over this property for a year now. So to begin, it's kind of all over the place. These areas, a lot of these areas of erosion are not as much erosion as the large trees that are on the property have shaded a lot of the property of the areas which has caused, grass is not growing there. So our plan is to do landscaping, mulching of areas under the trees, as well as in the center picture there, that would be river rock to maintain the erosion of the ground around that brick wall. The pictures to the left and the right are for we would be mulching those areas.
Okay, and then what are these planter? It looks like there was planter boxes as well. Or am I making that up? I thought I saw something about that.
In the parking lot, the squares.
Yeah.
There were in the parking lot, in two sections of the park, in the behind the units, there were trees of some sort in like a planar concrete area that were removed back prior to 2019, and we're looking to reinstall as requested with plantings in those locations. It's a total of 16 locations. Yes.
Okay, I see what you're talking
That's two separate locations in the parking lot. The left picture is when you first come into the community to your left, and the second picture is directly in front of you. And those squares had shrubbery in them, which Reston Association was kind enough to actually find a picture of previous plantings that were in those locations. The plan is to put poplars and crepe myrtles in those locations. It would be the crepe myrtles in the closest to the buildings and the poplars to the front of the parking lot.
Okay. So when you say it's a bed, though, you're not proposing any sort of wall or anything. It's just
No.
they're replacing the grass with tree and then mulch, I'm assuming, around it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, those are better pictures there to see them close up.
Emily, what do you think of those tree selections for those plots, let's call them?
Well, firstly, the crepe myrtles are fine. They're, for canopy size. They are a messy tree. So having them, I don't know, are these people's front door, the front doors of the buildings?
It's technically the back, but it is the parking lot where they enter their homes.
Yeah,
We are open to suggestions of other things, of other plantings. The popular were suggested because those are in the back area as well.
Yeah, the poplars, they're, one of our native species that we like, and they provide large overstory. They have every tree has its issues, but I have less of an issue with that one. Really, there's nothing wrong with the crepe myrtles, but I wouldn't want it to be the thing that I have to walk through in order to go to and from my car to my house. Just because they're messy and they do tend to, they attract a lot of pollinators, which is nice, but also if you've got people that have bee allergies and things like that, they can be quite messy. So I would look at another kind of understory tree somewhere in the 30-foot canopy. Also, because crepe myrtles vary drastically. If you do stick with a crepe myrtle, I would make sure you get one that's going to have an appropriate canopy, because some of them go up in kind of vase shaped, and other ones are just going to be kind of a bush that's not going to grow very large. So I think species you're going to want to be careful with on those, but no issues with the poplar. I think, well, my only concern is that eventually their root systems are going to be very big for those planting holes. So you would need some kind of urban street tree installation in order to make sure that they don't get too big for their britches in 20, 30 years. Which, you know, we're seeing that in the area now. So from our original plantings.
Yeah, like
Okay.
staff, go to page 8, staff, please. Like where basically you're proposing to do this in the other planning areas, but this is another part of the property, correct?
This was the original, yes, correct. This is a different part of the property. This is actually in between the two locations. That left-hand picture is toward us, and the front one photo is that back area there that you see.
Okay. And so staff, originally, do we have an original plan from this community when they went in, like where trees were supposed to be? Like were those 8x16 beds supposed to be trees?
We could not find an original landscape plan, but as you can see from the trees, our original idea was that there was plantings in every bed. And there is an interested party on the call who I believe has lived in the property for quite some time that can give you maybe a better idea of like what was there. But it's our belief that the original plan had a tree in every area that is being requested, which is why the property owner is here tonight, because we believe that the trees were unapproved to be removed.
Gotcha. And so this is Sandra Barksdale. Is that
Yeah, she's the interested party on the application.
The applicant, yeah. So let me hear from Sandra, and then we'll come back to you, Jeffrey. Okay.
Okay.
So I'd like to hear from Sandra. Sandra, are interested parties or affected parties, depending on, it seems you've been deemed an interested party, but it sounds like you live here. If you could give you 3 minutes or, you know, maybe even 5 minutes, depending on what you want to say. And I'd like to ask you a couple questions. We've reviewed your photos. They were definitely very helpful. But if you wanted to kind of walk us through kind of the community and make sure we're making a good decision here. So are you on?
Much. My name is Sandra Barksdale. I live at 1820 Bowman Town Court in Reston. The property that you are viewing right now, actually, the existing trees that you see on the screen here those are the original trees. And as Cam stated, each plot square of grass did have a tree. And I'm really not sure why those trees were removed. I don't have an answer for that. But, and as Emily stated, she asked the question, was this the front or the back? That was a great question. So this is the front entrance. Okay, now, and of course you can see that's the parking lot. And so these trees here, which Emily made a good point again, which we are experiencing right now, is the root system has actually broken underground pipe to a person's townhome and has disturbed their piping as far as their bathroom. And I don't know what's being done about that, but we are experiencing the root systems overgrown. Me, myself, I have a root from this tree. I think my house is like 1, 2, 3, 4 trees down from this photo, 3 to 4 down. I do have a root, and a lot of people do have roots that have these trees here in their yards as well. Okay. Now, I am concerned about the other trees that will be, you know, like the choice of trees that will be placed on the property, because this is the front yard. Of course, this is where we get the sun the most on this side of the property, and we need shade for the residents and the root system, like Emily stated, for years to come. Oh, also, I do want to mention, as far as my concern also is for the ground erosion. Now for the mulch. Oh, this photo right here, let's go back. Okay, so this photo here is, there's a fence. These are workers on the property removing trees. Okay. Behind this tree, it's like a forest right there. Behind this, what do you call it, a fence, let's say. The police station is right there. So everything was removed. So right now we do not have any noise barrier to block the police station from this property or any noise barriers, and no plan in place for any landscaping. This was a very dense area for a lot of invasive trees. I had an inspector come out from forestry, and he did write a report from the mulch. If we could bring that up, that would explain why it's okay. And that area right there was mulched heavily. And there's so many different areas throughout the property with the ground erosion. The mulch would just be a little much for a community. And if we could do a test, a soil test, to see how we can place grass and on the property instead of mulch and rocks. You know, we do have children, elderly, you know, we want to be safe and have a community look more like a community and not just full of mulch. The inspector did put in his report, the mulch that is being used is pretty much suffocating the trees that are existing on the property and should not be heavily mulched as it is. Let's see what else. So we have the trees, we have the mulch. If anyone has any more questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Sandra. I think that pretty much
Yes.
Answered what I was asking, and if anyone has any questions for you, though, I'd love to be able to ask you questions if anyone does. So we'll just hang on. If anyone wants to ask you a question, I'd like to give them that option. So Jeffrey, just one more question about the landscaping. Did you guys look at doing, because I am a little concerned that I just don't know if trees is necessarily the right answer. I'm like, if you guys look at different options for maybe some different type of landscaping in each of those beds. I mean, is basically the grass just not, it's not, or is it what's prompting this is RA is asking you to replace the trees that potentially were removed. Is that accurate?
That for those locations right there on the screen now. In the other areas, under the trees where the grass has eroded away, you know, they cited us for erosion in those areas. And a lot of the issue is that they're in locations that are not receiving any sun. So nothing is growing. The grass is not growing in those locations.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out something to do to protect that area and the roots of the trees and all.
Yeah, no, I mean okay, so that was just making a little more sense. Okay, so let me go around, see if anyone has any questions for you or for the applicant on this, or on an interested party, and then we'll go from there. Emily, hopefully you have some thoughts here. This is your realm.
I do. So just for this kind of copse of trees here, my recommendation would be to work with something that is going to be a little bit more subdued over time, and something that's going to be able to tolerate the ice melt that's going to be in this areas and snow pile up and all sorts of things, like, because these planters are sort of put in an urban condition. I don't think the poplar, upon reflection, I don't think the poplar and the crepe combination is going to be a good mixture, and would instead recommend something like doing a red maple or some service berries. And I can give staff my recommendations if it's helpful to put in the notes of, you know, what I think. There are a couple of different options, but something that's going to be able to tolerate this kind of urban street tree condition. I like the idea. I think if these are not, if they're not planted somehow, these random patches of grass are not super appealing. And it'd be almost better to get rid of them, but I don't want to pave over, you know, everything that we've got there. My other thought is on the areas of erosion and river rock. I am concerned looking at those photos of where we're talking about just mulching areas, because mulch does wash away as well. And if we're experiencing erosion, which we can actually like see in the photos, the desiccation lines and where the soil has been worn away. I mean, to me, honestly, it looks like from these photos that grass is not growing because the soil is either has been ripped away or was just kind of junky to begin with. That's very common around, you know, built structures, especially old style construction. They would just pile the debris and whatnot around the edges of the space. So, I mean, you can kind of see that there's a lot of shale, there's a lot of rock where these roots are exposed. And in looking at, I don't remember which page it was on, but there's a photo that's sort of looking back through this space past the pin oaks. And it's giving me hope that I do think in this particular area that we could get grass to grow. And I know that there's sod being proposed in the other areas. I think, where did it go? It's page 21, where you can see sort of, you know, in the foreground, there's the area where grass is just not having a good time. And again, a lot of root systems and things like that. But you can actually see grass growing like almost fully underneath the tree here. So I'm less, those are the clues that are telling me it's less about not getting the right amount of moisture and the right amount of sunlight, and more about the fact that there's like, we just need to add some good soil to give the grass some chance to actually grow here, and maybe some erosion control matting. I don't have any problem with the river rock to kind of help slow water down. Again, my concern is just a 36 by 36 foot area of mulch is gigantic, and it's going to turn into a weedy, eroded jungle. If there was a plan to plant that down the line to help kind of stabilize the soil and beautify the area, I'd be more on board. But I just think that that's an obscene amount of just open mulch bed with nothing growing in it. It's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna look any better than the current condition or prevent erosion in the long run. So those are my recommendations. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Samantha?
No question. And I want to thank Emily's input. Very educational. Good to have you on board.
Camelia?
No questions. Thank you.
Mike B?
No questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out if I do agree. I think the mulching is a little bit, I mean, if you look at some of the soil pictures, I mean, it's all like, I mean, there's like gravel in half of the soil. I mean, no grass is going to want to grow anyways. You know, I don't know if it's as simple as, you know, needing a good top dressing and hydro seeding. You know, I worry that sod is really not going to do well, because I mean, hopefully they would put down some topsoil, you know, before they put down the sod. But I almost would rather, you know, get some hydro seeding or something that's more going to actually try to let the grass thrive and grow itself. Or I'm thinking like, do you do more, you know, understory plantings, like, you know, I don't know, like grasses, like what am I, Pachysandra, or like, I don't know, is Liriope good or bad, Emily?
It depends, but
I just know that the Liriope will spread on its own. It'll, it looks kind of like grass. It's green. It can be trampled. It will grow back. It's, pretty resilient. I'm just, I'm trying to think, since we're here and we're discussing it, I think it's a question. The kind of these planter boxes or whatever we want to call them. I just think any sort of large tree like a poplar is just not a good idea. I just think it's going to cause more issues down the road. And I don't know what the right decision is. I don't know if like a dogwood maybe is a better option. It's a native tree. It's going to be a lot slower grower. They're not going to get as big as a poplar. I mean, I don't know, Emily, if I'm being
Yep, no, you are
that.
very pun intended, barking up the right tree. With that, again, I would say what we call anything in the category 2 of deciduous trees. So that's going to be something that's going to be 20 to 30 feet tall and wide with the same size of root system that isn't super punchy is going to be appropriate. Again, we want to pick, right plant, right place. We do have a lot of site conditions that you're going to be dealing with here. So you can't just be like, oh, let's put anything in, because they won't thrive. And then we'll be having this exact same conversation in another, 5 years. So something like a Coosa dogwood or Cornelian cherry dogwood, those are options if we wanted to go that route. Again, an Almalancare or a serviceberry. Sorry, I'm throwing the Latin out. But again, I can write all these down for suggestions. But I agree. Something too big is going to cause issues down the line, as we've been seeing with, a lot of the older homes in Reston with these very, very large canopy trees. They are lovely, but they need to be in an appropriate location, not in a parking lot.
Right.
So yeah. And about the ground cover, I'm in agreement that either a ground cover or stabilizing with grass would be good. You are right, Michael, that doing something where we hydroseed and stabilize will do a lot better, perform a lot better than sod. Sod tends to be spoiled and in a field and doesn't do well to being put in adverse conditions right off the bat. But I think what we're trying to say here, the point we're trying to get to, is some kind of stabilization, whether that be a grass or a ground cover, but just not plain mulch, because that will cause erosion or not. It will get eroded down the line.
Right. Understood.
Yep. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah. So, because really the big areas are going to be around, around the tot lot or the playground area, basketball court, right? That's where you guys had a bunch of sod proposed. That's a pretty relatively sunny area. I think hydroseeding would just be easier, and frankly, I think it might even be cheaper than sod. And to me, it's going to let the grass grow, more naturally, and just be kind of putting it back. I think you're going to get great sun there. You guys might have to rope it off for a little bit so people don't walk all over it, but other than that, I think that would be a better option. And then the only thing, staff, where exactly are they proposing the big mulch bed? Because I didn't quite is that slide 34? No, because that's grass, right, Jeffrey? The one they just showed, the brown right there. That's the mulch.
That was yeah.
That's towards the back end of the property, towards
like this is in the shade. I think here I'm okay with the mulch between the house and here. I don't think there's going to be much erosion. There may need to be a splash block. I can't see if there's a splash block on that gutter there or not. But the only thing I would recommend here is maybe more, put some plantings that are going to do well there.
Maybe some Liriope.
Maybe or Pachysandra. I think Liriope, I can't remember. I think it may be, some of it's invasive, some of it's not, so I don't want to recommend it. Pachysandra will also spread on its own, and is a good ground cover, which will do great in shade as well. And that way you don't just have a bunch of mulch, because at the end of the day, mulch, it gets blown by the wind. The leaf blowers come by and clean up the leaves. They send the mulch go flying, right? So if there's something to hold the mulch, like the Pachysandra or another ground cover, I think it's always going to do a little bit better long term. That way you guys aren't having to remulch and remulch and remulch. It's a little bit more investment up front, but then you don't have to pay for mulch every year.
So where am I I'm sorry, I'm on page 16. The area that I was talking about is, I guess, in A and line item number 1, where we say prep 36 by 36 area behind, where the first photo in the green area.
The first photo in the green. That is actually, that power box is out on the main road. That is literally the corner of the property where the homes go to the left and right, and they go down into a corner. That is the corner. The one area of River Rock is proposed for that little brick wall there on the left-hand side of the screen.
Do you want the aerial, Emily?
Yeah, that would be great. I'm just not understanding where A1 is.
I think it's page 45. So it's the left-hand corner of the screen. There's a yellow dot where the tree is, and then the utility box is the box closest to the street.
Gotcha.
Right there.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that I mean, that's the area where my giant swath of mulch equals bad idea. That was my point.
Grass should be able to do well there. I mean, that's southern exposure. I mean, to me, that area, I think if you power seeded it or hydro seeded it, sorry, I think it would do fine there. I just think it's, I think it's naturally a cut through path for people. And so I'm sure it's walked on a lot.
Right.
And I just hesitate with sod because I just don't think sod's going to do well. I just think it's going to be a waste of money. You're going to put it in and you got nobody there to water it consistently. And even me, who I put sod in my yard, and I swear I watered that sucker perfect. It still died. and so that's what I worry, that it's just not going to do well. So I think what we could do is staff, what do we need to make to help the situation? Is there's an active violation on the property, or what is the current status?
So generally, yes, there's an active violation, but generally if the applicant or the property owner is submitting an application to address, we try to support them through the DRB process, because then the DRB decision is what we follow up on.
Okay. So Jeffrey, would it be okay if we kind of we did a deferral, say you're going in the right path, but we need a little bit more kind of maybe plantings in these mulch beds. They need to be shrank up a little bit. We need to look at, maybe not doing sodding, but maybe doing, hydro
seeding. Yeah.
And then for the tree areas, or the planter boxes, let's call them, finding more, what do you call them? Grade two trees, Emily? It's just something.
Category 2. Yeah.
I mean, are the crepe myrtles considered a grade 2? Is that?
They technically are, yes. Not under they're not native. So that's why they're not kind of figured into most of the replanting structures. So when we can, we like native trees and wildlife in this area.
To me, I just don't know if even every planter, and somebody else can weigh in, I don't even think every planter box needs a tree, personally. I think almost the ones around the perimeter are so close to like the trees that are kind of on those peninsulas that jut out into the parking lot that, it doesn't make sense to just do the 4 in the middle. I mean, they clearly already have shade and other things kind of generated by these other trees. Does it make more sense to just do trees in the middle, grade 2, in those middle 4 of the 8, right, in each section, and then the other ones either remain grass or, because I'm not opposed to the grass. I think it's, some of these people may have pets. They may want to, be able to let them, relieve themselves quick. Who knows? I don't know. I just don't think we need to put back all of those trees, because I just don't think they're going to 20 years down the road, I think we're gonna have the same issue again. If there's too many trees clustered up like that. I don't know what you think about that, Emily.
I just did a quick Google, and the center of the planter boxes is about they're like about 16 feet on center, kind of wide, and then almost 20 side to side long. So I mean that can support again a 20-foot canopy quite easily. They'd have a decent amount of overlap. It comes down to canopy coverage, them absorbing heat, them creating habitat, and just kind of cooling the area. Do I think that they perhaps all need to be planted? Maybe, or all have trees in them? Maybe not, but I do think it'd be nice to see them planted rather than just grass. But that is also a little bit up to well, I guess to Cam's point, if we come up with a suggestion and we say they don't all have to be planted, even though those potentially were original trees, is that okay?
Well, yeah, because I don't want to tell them to put trees back just where there were trees if they're not going to do well, So to me, other plantings are just as, desirable in my opinion, whether there's, whether it's hollies or whether it's boxwoods or it's, some sort of evergreen bush, I think could potentially do, maybe there's a different way to, to design it. It seems like a landscape designer or architect's challenge, to be honest with you. There was an urban planning idea here, and it just wasn't quite executed with the plantings correctly. So to me, I just think it needs a little bit further study. And I think personally it'd be okay to not have them all be trees. I think there could be, the middle four, I think maybe could be trees, and then the outer could either be planted, or in my opinion, I think they could stay the way they are. But I think it needs more study is basically my point. So
well, Michael, do we want to split this so that lighting and landscaping into two separate items, so that, because it sounds like we have enough information to vote on one, but not on the other?
Correct. Yeah. Jeffrey, would that help you? I'm assuming
Yeah.
because there's some
Yeah,
light.
because the lighting is something that we could do now, as long as the weather's good. Landscaping, we're going to be on hold anyway, so give us a little more time to come up with a better plan.
Okay, cool. And with the lighting, the one question I did come up with when we were waiting is slide 49, staff, please. There's a shoebox fixture that has three lights in it, and then there's one with the 6 lights in it. Do you know, is the photometric that you did, I couldn't tell, is it for the one that has 3 lights or 6 lights? I was trying to look at this model.
I honestly do not know which one it is. I don't know if it's the 3 or the 6 lighting.
Yeah, because I couldn't tell. The documentation is very blurry, that it's like, it almost like it looks like it was scanned in. Because the lumens were a little worrisome. There was like 13,000 lumens per fixture, and that's what I was trying to figure out, what the photometric was showing, because it looks like it's going. That's the only question I had, but I don't think it's going to be an issue because your poles are so low that I don't think it's going to end up looking like the police station that's next door. That's
right.
That is super bright. But they need it from for their perspective. So anyways, okay. Yeah. So I think we should split it off. I think as long as the color temperature is 3,000, I think we'll be fine. What I'll do, staff, you're okay with that if we split it, Cam? LaShonda, that's fine?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the lighting portion of the application, and defer the landscaping portion to allow the applicant some further study period time based on our comments tonight.
Can you clarify the timeline?
Yes.
For the lighting replacement?
Since the next meeting you need stuff in only like 2 weeks from now, Jeffrey, do you think, is it okay if I defer it to the March meeting?
Yeah, I think it's fine with me as long as it's fine with everybody else.
Yeah, I'll put a timeline that the applicant needs to resubmit within 45 days from the decision letter.
Thanks, Michael, but I actually meant timeline on replacing the light fixtures and poles.
Oh, well, yes, that the applicant agreed to a 2-year, so to include a 2-year maximum time limit on replacing the lights.
Got both of them. Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you. And can I just ask one more thing before I leave?
Yeah.
How long will it be before I get Emily's recommendations?
It'll be around the same timeline as the decision.
Okay,
So
great.
next Tuesday.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. We have next up 11229 Leatherwood Drive. Is the applicant here?
Applicant is here, just sent him up mute.
Hello.
All right, welcome back, Sean.
Hi, everybody.
All right, if you could walk us through what I think you're amending or you're requesting to amend a decision that we had, or I guess we disapproved, and then now you're coming back with some more stuff, correct?
That's correct. This is the landscape and also the fence.
All right, do you want to walk us through your
Yes.
updated application, please?
Yes, at the beginning, the first meeting that I asked for the fence, and you recommended a green fence instead of the wooded fence. And I tried to get the fence that is matching with my neighbors, that they have also the privacy fence and then regular fence. But at the end, I found out I'm taking your recommendation and put a green fence, which is the evergreens, that also my adjacent neighbor has about 15 feet of them between my yard and her yard. This is with the blue triangles. It is about 4 feet apart, because last time I offered the same, and they said the distance was 8 feet apart, and one of the neighbors said, no, this is too far from each other. Now I reduce it to 4 feet apart, and it is a 15 on one side and 45 of the other side, which about 6 of those, it is existing by my neighbor.
Okay. And I believe you removed a bunch of things from the scope, like you're not doing the driveway anymore, the patio, some of the stuff that we were kicking in, kind of saying we wanted to see a grading plan for. You've removed some of those items. Could you kind of go through that?
Yes, because the house interior was in really bad shape, and I didn't know that the renovation is going to cost that much and take all my saving. And the landscape was the issue that's from your side, and that was pushed to be done. I thought it's better from my financial standpoint to go the one. It is very important. And take one at a time, and then go step by step, do the other things, which I am improving my landscape and the driveway later on.
Okay. And staff, remind me, what was the situation with this retaining wall? That's on the existing retaining wall, that's part of the property. It's like these modular blocks. Was there anything?
These was before as I purchased the house.
They were on the property before he purchased. He was proposing to change and modify them and I think extend, if I'm not mistaken.
But they weren't a violation from before.
Correct. So on page 3 and 4 of the application, it gives kind of a breakdown of what has been removed from the application. So basically, you're reviewing a new application, let's say it that way, for just the green fencing the owner mentions, as well as the installation of the trees that he is responding to the current active violation for the tree removal on the property.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And then do we have enough? That's good for now, sir. Do we have an affected party that wants to speak on this?
Yes. Our first is Kathy, and Kathy, you are unmuted. Just a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. I'm Kathy Kaplan. I live in the corner where his property, Mr. Mayor's property, comes with Catherine Rosen. It's a very sharp triangle. My property line is 22 feet long. Along that property line is the transformer and the transmission lines for the electric line, and also the cable and the telephone are between the transformer and the property line. And he is proposing three of his trees on that 22-foot strip. His proposal in the first place, this was an area that was previously a naturalized area since the time I moved in. And he went in and took out many, many of the trees and the smaller trees and shrubbery. And so what I'm asking is that that area be restored to naturalized area according to the covenants, because they are they're protected by the covenants. It would be good to have a mix of up in that corner with Catherine's property, to have deciduous and evergreens like hollies and different kinds of native plants up there to make it the way it was before. There's an oak tree that sits on my property line with Rudder, Patty Rudder. And that oak tree sustained damage from the extensive stump grinding. He had two crews working the yard, stump grinding all of the many, many trees he took out of the property. And 6 weeks after that happened, 2 big branches fell from that oak that you're looking at right now. This is the part that you're looking at is facing me. And there's dead wood up there that I found late in the fall. This is a tree previously the most healthy oak tree that was in the area. And I suspect it has sustained systemic damage from stump grinding. And if he goes and he puts all these trees that he's planted on a property line, it's going to further damage my tree. Even if he goes, if he goes down the line with Patty, goes with Catherine, there's going to be damage to this tree. So that's why I want to have this corner a naturalized area, the way it was before, the way Dick Zeman created it from the time he moved in. It was like that when I moved in. The other issue is there hasn't done any planting on the embankment along Leatherwood to restore, to do something about the erosion there on that very steep area, which he cleared all the understory. And every time his crew comes, they continue to cut the understory down, so nothing can get established there. So eventually that's going to be a problem because that's where the water goes down. That goes down. That's you look in the lower image. The water goes down there, and so that hasn't been addressed.
Pardon me, Kathy.
Yes.
That is time. If the DRB would like to extend additional time, they may do so, but at this point, that is time for your affected party statement.
Can I ask you a question? Are you open to a question, Kathy?
Yes.
So for the natural area that you're requesting, kind of that back, it's kind of the back, I guess it's not even a corner, it's kind of where it comes to a pie shape, right in the back of the property. Where is the transformer located? Is that on your property or is it on the neighbor's property, or where is that?
It's on my property.
Okay.
And
I couldn't tell where it was because it wasn't on his flat. So
it's about maybe 4 feet from the fence towards Lawyers Road.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
And it's a very, very large transformer. And because it's so close to the property line, you really can't get in there and do any digging. Okay. Also, I don't want him putting any trees on my property line. I want him to set them back 3 feet. That's the transformer right there.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Can't
Okay.
really see the fence. It's more to the right, and that's his property. That's okay. That is picture taken from my property, and that tree right there on the right side is my oak, and it's not mine. It's Patty's and mine. It sits on the privacy fence goes off to the right, and so that oak is going to be impacted by putting in a line of trees. I'm asking that they not be put. I'm asking to have a restored natural area that we've had here since '83 and before that. This is a picture of what his front yard looked like. This was taken. This is an old picture. Daniel Zeman took that picture. That one you're looking. That's the front yard. That was taken the day he put the property on the market late last summer, 2 summers ago, and that was all stripped. That was all that stuff was stripped. That now the bottom picture, you go back down. Okay, all those shrubs up there to the right side, there was no way you could see my house from up there because of all different kinds of shrubs, native shrubs, everything was up there. That's all gone now on his side. And if it starts to grow, he sends his people up and they cut it down. That's the part that I want naturalized again.
Okay,
Daniel Zeman lived in that house all the time he grew up, and he never knew my house was there because he could not see it. I have 18 feet of patio windows here that open up to my living room. And not only can Mayor see into my house, which never could happen before, but people in the cul-de-sac can walk into my living room. This is the eroded area that's along Leatherwood. That's quite eroded, and it's continuing to be eroded.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay.
There's some other affected parties that I want to hear from. So, staff, do we have the other affected parties as well?
Yes, we have Ms. Patricia Ruther. I did send you an unmute prompt.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi. Well, I guess I agree with everything that Kathy's saying. I'm in front of Kathy next to Mr. Mayor, and the property has just been completely emaciated. And the trees, while they will provide some privacy, but I also want to make sure they're set back. I have a row of like 5 trees along the back of his house. And I just want to make sure, and I couldn't tell on his plan exactly how far the trees were set back from the property line, because I want to be sure that trees are not going to grow on my side where I'm going to be responsible for maintaining them. And they're also not going to affect my current trees that are along there. So I agree with everything Kathy said, and I was concerned about his shed. It didn't have but it appears that he's removing the shed requirement, so I'm no longer concerned about that.
Okay,
I think that's it.
great. Thank you, Patty. Anybody else, Steph?
No other updated affected party statements. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, Reston Association on behalf of the board of directors. I just wanted to point out on page 19, it might be helpful to look at the bottom picture to show what Mrs. Rudder was discussing in terms of the trees next to the shed. I think that location is the area that she was specifically talking about, as well as pointing out some of the pictures earlier on, or actually later on in the application, kind of towards page 90, the condition of the property prior to the work that was being completed. There has been some substantial amount of what I would coin as overgrowth and understory taken out. But clearly the property has had some improvements done that far exceed what the state of the property was prior to the owner conducting some of the work, whether it was approved or unapproved. The homeowner has done some substantial improvements to the property to reflect what we would deem to be a good Reston standard in terms of the exterior maintenance of the property, the house itself. So I just wanted to point those things out to you all as you all go through. And actually on page 93 gives you a good opposite side of that. If you could go to page 93. Thank you. It gives you a view from the other angle of that picture that was on the earlier page that I mentioned. It's just the other angle looking up towards the hill to the other affected party, Ms. Kaplan. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Let me go around the room, see if anyone has any questions for the applicant, and then we'll have some discussions. So, Emily?
So I have a couple of questions. My first is that I was looking through the old documentation, and do we have any record? It looks like it looks like 15 trees were removed, and that's what we're seeking replacement in this updated landscaping plan for. Am I correct, staff? What was the original? Because I know the erosion in the front was part of the violation, but it looked like we pegged 15 trees that had been removed without approval. Am I mistaken?
No, I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the teens.
Okay.
Well, I also think it was deemed not possible to know.
Correct.
Right. So we didn't have any like original.
No, we counted stumps on the property.
Okay. Okay. I guess there's that question. And has so to echo what Michael asked earlier, the segmental block retaining wall is not part of the violation notice at the moment. Even though it transferred between the residents, will it become something that we have to address at some point?
No, because it was there prior to the person's ownership, and I can't remember the exact whether it was approved or unapproved or identified on a resale or not. But I mean, if you saw the pictures that were taken by staff, you could probably see that you couldn't even see that there was a retaining wall.
Well, and that was what kind of, it's just something that's drawn out like that I see now that technically is, using materials that we don't allow. And I understand that it wasn't caught, but you guys couldn't see it. And it also doesn't look like it's installed properly. I mean, it's all eroding underneath of it. So I'm just.
I mean, the owner's on the call. I believe he has every intention of doing other enhancements to the property, which included the retaining wall originally. So I think it's just a matter of expense to take care of those issues. And so to take care of the violation that is currently active, he's separating out those items and coming back to the retaining wall at a later date, I believe. And Sean, please correct me if I'm incorrect.
Yes, that is correct. The violation was the trees, but from the property respect my neighbors, over there, they removed about 21 trees on 2006. And also she put a privacy fence all around the border between the Patricia and Caddy. I don't mind it. It looks very ugly, but I respect that that was before I'm purchasing that house. I didn't remove anything on the hill except removing the old the ivies and English ivies, wrapping through these yellow marked trees that you can see with the trunk size is still existing. And so there's about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 trees on that property on that corner. And also the transformer, it is not on my side, it is about 5 feet away. And it is that concern. I can sit back from the transformer. What is the utility asking me to do it, to put this fence? Because I asked for the regular fence. They didn't allow me. The fence that Patricia has, they didn't allow me. Now the green fence, it is what it is, the last resort I can put it in, that I have my privacy too.
Okay, great. Samantha, do you have any questions, comments?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Camelia,
Same here. Thank you.
Mike B.
So just for clarity, Michael, we're not discussing the stone wall, the retaining wall, any of those structures as part of tonight's events, correct?
Correct. It's just the green fence.
Okay.
Basically the arborvitae's go around the perimeter, and then the, you know, other associated planning plan. If you look at, you know, page 7.
Gotcha.
So Steph,
just,
go to page 7.
just making sure.
Because I just want to be clear
Okay,
what we are approving, just, or, you know, what we're looking at tonight, would be this plan. That is correct, Steph. Everything else from my knowledge has been removed per your guys' breakdown.
That's correct. So the green fence is a new request that the homeowner would like, but is not conditioned on any violation. The tree removal, tree replacement is the only thing that's currently under action from Reston.
And there's 8 new trees listed. They're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're called out, you know, autumn blazed red maple, 1, 2, forest pansy, red loud, I think it's red bud, 3 ginkgo tree, you know, blah blah blah. So those are the So my comment is, I think it's way too many arborvitae. I think it's way too many from a natural looking situation. I am all for a green fence. I think it's a great, you know, idea. I think ultimately I would prefer something more natural, kind of something that's, you know, like a holly or something that will be still evergreen, but is much more of an understory and not going to become, I don't know, not, you know, unnatural looking. Now, with that said, on the left-hand side of the existing part of the property, there already are a couple, I believe those are arborvitaes now. If you go to slide, the existing new updated pictures are very helpful. Slide 19, staff.
15.
So slide 19 shows that bottom picture there. Emily, correct me if I'm wrong. Those are
some green giants. Yep.
correct. So in those, and Sean, those are on the neighbor's property, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So there is precedent for some of these. I think I'm not opposed to them, you know, on the property. I think there's some room for them to create a green fence. I just don't necessarily want to line the entire property and make it feel like it's gonna get caved in by these things because they're gonna keep growing and growing and growing, and I just worry that it's not the proper tree for some of the locations. So I'm wondering.
And to the affected parties, point and letter somebody wrote, the emerald green arborvitaes, that species are one of the ones that you will see the deer lollipop. So they aren't going to provide much privacy for more than it takes for the herd of Bambi to find them. So I agree with you, Michael, that I think an army, I think it was 30 is what's on the plan of emerald arborvitaes, won't exactly fit with kind of a more naturalistic and native understory tree. Plus, it's going to get annihilated by the deer.
Now, what about the other tree replacements, the 1 through 8? Are you fine with those?
I have no qualms about those other than I don't see any size of install on the application. And that is something that I was concerned for both these trees and the arborvitae. 30 arborvitae, if we put them in and they're, 2 feet tall, isn't going to be, cute for quite some time. So that was just something to flag is these aren't specified in size. But I have no problem with the species that are being proposed in this most recent planting plan.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't take any recommendation for trunk size for the new trees from Emily, and I appreciate that. I put here 3 inch to 4 inch trunk size, but it is not enough. I can make it. That's she is accepting my application.
So you said 3 to 4 inch. Is that on the plans or the letter somewhere? And if I
yes, here on my plan is maybe I didn't make it note. Is a 3 inch to 4 inch trunk size.
Okay, yeah, I mean 3 to 4 inch caliper is more than sufficient for new installs of the deciduous trees. So that's fine by me.
And for the evergreen for the fence was 4 to 5 feet tall.
Okay.
So, Steph, can you go to slide 20, please? And the lower picture here. Sean, and maybe this isn't in your property. This is the direction towards the affected party, Kathy's property, right? Correct?
Yeah,
1, 1, 2,
yes, this is,
3?
you can see the privacy fence. It is between Kathy and Patricia.
What is that fort looking thing?
Which one? Yeah, this is the Patricia built that one. I don't know.
That's on her. That's her property. That's
yes.
not yours.
Yes.
Okay. So, because this is the area that I think is more set up for, because there is kind of this natural berm. I almost think that this would be a great area to do kind of more natural plantings, whether they be kind of. I'm okay with the continuation of the green fence, but maybe switching over to like a holly and doing more of a staggered install versus just in a line. I think would help, and I think you maybe could cluster like a group of like maybe probably 4 to 5 hollies that just kind of could create a screen over time, but also kind of go back to being kind of that natural green all the time area that the area was originally, and still give you kind of that full-time privacy that you're looking for, and not take all those arborvitaes kind of around that corner in the back there. And then kind of as you come in this picture up kind of closer to us on the north or the right side of this retaining wall, maybe just doing some easy understory trees that are going to do well, and not continue the arborvitae. I just don't think they're going to look appropriate in that more natural wooded area. On that's the area that I have the most problem with them, is kind of that. I don't know if we go back to the plan. Sorry, staff, to be jumping all around page 7, but basically it's really the top you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 arborvitae trees. I just don't think they're necessary there. And I would almost cluster some in that corner there, cluster some hollies, or maybe even have some hollies that elongate down that whole line. Would maybe be a better option for that area. But then if you did, since there already kind of is the precedent of the green, and maybe there's a better arborvitae than the green giant, Emily, that you could recommend that the deer don't eat, but maybe that left side of the property, you know, to me, it is appropriate as long as they're on his property. I do think that is a clear thing. You know, these trees need to make sure they can't go on the property line. They need to be, you know, placed on your property. I think it would be appropriate to run kind of the arborvitae line up that side if he wanted to continue kind of what was already there. I would recommend staggering them versus just lining them up in a big line so they don't, you know, you can usually plant them farther apart when you do that. But Emily, what do you think? What's a better species there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that hollies are going to be better for kind of being a native understory tree that's going to do a little bit better in that kind of mixed sun shade environment. And I would also strongly recommend against the kind of monoculture that is being proposed at the moment. Again, varying species is good just for a myriad of reasons, but I'd really, really strongly advise against doing 30 of anything. So, and again, not, you know, stick straight rows, because that is kind of not in keeping with the aesthetic of the neighborhood. Hollies will do great. There's some camellias even that'll get, you know, nice, big and bushy and be evergreen and kind of fill in. We don't necessarily have to have all of these be trees. If we wanted to do some big, you know, rhododendrons, those can get 12 feet tall. So there's a lot of evergreen species that we can kind of mix in here to increase privacy, but also not make it look so monolithic. So those would be my recommendations, and really kind of talking back with your landscaper to get some ideas that aren't just straight line arborvitaes.
Yeah, and I think the rhododendron is a good one. I also think like maybe even like some, you know, 3 skip laurels kind of like position. Like I think you could kind of, there's a pretty nice topography to be able to create, and you already kind of have a good starter with the neighbors where they already put the arborvitae. You almost don't even need to put anything where they have those, and leave that area, you know, existing. And then you kind of have already created this natural stepping where you'll have, you know, kind of some more protecting that shed, kind of, if we go to slide 19, preventing the back of that shed. You could kind of put a group of 3 to 5 trees there. So the bottom picture, you can kind of see the shed on the back side of those arborvitaes there. You know, to the left of that, in that area, if you are wanting to kind of create this green fence, and I think you could accomplish the green fence with a lot less trees than what you have now, and kind of mixing in different species that aren't even necessarily considered trees. Like a rhododendron, isn't that a bush? And a skip laurel, I know, is a bush. It's not even a tree. So things like that, Sean, I mean, are you open to kind of looking at kind of potential, let's scaling back not as many of those trees, and maybe grouping together more other evergreen style, whether it be skip laurels or rhododendrons, or Emily had some other recommendations that we can make sure to get to you, to really scale back the number of arborvitae that you're.
Yeah, definitely, I am happy to work with you because Emily, it is experience in those trees. If she make a recommendation, for example, between each 2 trees, make it apart, and instead 4 feet, make it 8 feet that I had previously, and put a bush between these 2 that grow naturally, and you can also little bit have a privacy and see through the other property. I am willing to do everything that this violation go out of my list, because every day it is challenging and make me really frustrated if I cannot do anything for my property and improve it.
Okay. Well, what if we, yeah, so what we'll do is we'll try to, I'm even kind of starting to sketch over this and just kind of, it took me a while to figure out exactly when you look at the pictures to the plat to figuring out exactly where everything is, because not everything's exactly, they're all positioned, the pictures are taken different angles, right? I'm slowly making my way and figuring this out around your property. So I think what we can do is I think you're going in the right direction for sure.
Thank you.
And I think the house looks great. It looks much improved from what it was from an exterior standpoint. So we greatly appreciate the effort that you've put into that. Because I know house projects are time consuming and take a lot of finances. So we definitely much appreciate your commitment to the structure. And now we're just gonna, hopefully get there on the landscaping plan, but we really appreciate what you have done so far.
Thank you.
So what we'll do is I want to make just one more motion to defer it to allow to have a little bit better green. So I'm going to make a motion to defer it to allow the applicant to restudy the green fence to introduce some additional evergreen species and not as many and more targeted locations like we talked about. But I do want to note that the 8 trees that are proposed are a good selection, and that you don't necessarily need to address those, and that we'll look at providing some feedback to you directly for some ideas of these living green fence, bush locations, trees, bush, whatever we want to call them.
It is perfect.
So we'll make them. So there's the motion to defer with that extra verbiage that I put in there. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any further discussion?
Do you have a timeline?
I would like to have it resubmitted within 45 days. Emily, do you accept that?
Accepted, yes.
That way we can get this thing approved before, spring, and he can get these suckers in. So, do I hear all in favor say aye?
Aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Sean. We'll be in touch, okay? Because I'm marking up on your plan right now as I speak. So I have some ideas that I'm happy to share with staff so they can send them over to you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Emily and everybody. I appreciate your time. And I hope so, with the new trees, it is possible to order, or I should wait for approval?
I personally, I would just wait just so we can, you're not going to be able to put those in anyway. It's very, unfortunately, the ground is very frozen right now. So,
yeah, I know.
But yes, I would have them, if there's trees that you want to put on hold or whatever at the nursery, I think you could definitely do that. But I think I would hold until we make a final decision. And hopefully we'll get there. You can definitely submit faster. So if we get you feedback, you can definitely come back, to the next meeting if you can make it. The 45-day timeline basically allows you to get into for the March meeting. Versus
you're giving me your recommendation also, Emily, too, that I'm making that is approved.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Are you giving also your recommendation that I am selecting the way that it looks better professionally, and also is this approved for the new spring?
Yeah, we'll work on giving you some recommendations as a team. It won't directly maybe all come from Emily, but it'll come. We'll give you some feedback on what we're thinking as a team, and then that usually will help you, be able to get it approved next time. For sure.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, so we voted. We're good. I lost my agenda. Steph, do we have is there anything else I need to talk about tonight?
Nope, that was the last project on the agenda for tonight.
Okay, I just didn't know if we had anything to discuss. All right, so does anyone have a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
To adjourn.
All right, there's a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, motion passes. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank
Good night, everyone. Thank you for your time.